Breaking news from the tragedy in Florence, South Carolina, where one officer was killed and 6 others were wounded.
We need lots of prayers. This community, this law enforcement community, these officers and their families need lots of prayers.
Within the last hour, the Florence County Sheriff talked about the emotional toll this is taking on all of his officers.
Channel 9 sent crews to Florence as soon as we learned about the standoff and that hostage situation yesterday.
Today, 2 of the officers were released from the hospital, but the entire community is still grappling with this tragedy. The suspected shooter is a 74-year-old man, a Vietnam veteran named Frederick Hopkins. He is in the hospital tonight. Now, the officer who passed away is Terrence Caraway, who had been with the department there for 30 years. Now, this happened in a typically quiet neighborhood.
And now neighbors are sending their thoughts and prayers to those officers who put themselves in harm's way. Our South Carolina Bureau reporter Greg Suskin is live at the scene in Florence now, where there are still a lot of questions tonight. Greg?
That's right. This neighborhood here where I'm standing, anything but quiet tonight. Behind me there, the road's still blocked off. It is still a crime scene. There was so much gunfire here in this neighborhood. Police have not even begun to give us an idea of how many shots were fired or how many officers returned fire during this whole episode. We do know that one officer was shot inside his own patrol car. Police say 74-year-old Fred Hopkins opened fire on sheriff's deputies as they tried to serve a warrant at this large home outside Florence. Neighbors told us it sounded like war.
I could hear rapid gunfire, a lot of gunfire. It was like, and I don't want me to put it lightly because I'm a Vietnam veteran, but it was like combat.
Florence police officers, some of them off duty, raced to the scene for backup. They say Hopkins continued shooting, hitting 7 officers. EMS workers couldn't get to the injured officers, so an armored vehicle was used to shield them so they could be rescued. Florence police officer Terrence Caraway was killed, a 30-year veteran of the force. Hopkins is a disabled Vietnam veteran who'd been disbarred as a lawyer decades ago. He and his wife are foster parents, and children were in the house at the time. Police Chief Alan Heigler said this about his officers involved.
They will be scarred for a long period of time.
He was emotional, telling reporters that the rest of his officers wouldn't accept outside help to do their jobs today, patrolling the streets.
They didn't want me to call other people. They didn't want me to call other agencies who have offered support. They said, no, Chief, we've got it.
Neighbors trying to find some kind of normal today are thinking only of the officers who serve and protect them. And the police chief did say this afternoon that those injured officers may have been on the ground back there for as long as 30 minutes before that armored vehicle was able to get there, shield them, and allow for a rescue. We're live in Florence. Greg Suskin, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Greg. Now, there's going to be a candlelight vigil there in Florence tonight at 7:30 in honor of the officers, and all the flags in South Carolina are at half-staff today. Still a lot of unanswered questions in this case, like what type of gun the suspect is accused of using and whether he was legally allowed to have it. Channel 9 will continue to press the investigators there for all of those answers. We have a lot more coverage throughout the next 90 minutes. For a lot of us, this shooting brought us right back to January. That's when a suspect shot 4 officers in York County, killing one of them. At 5:30, we're talking to the chief there about how his officers want to help those in Florence. And then ahead tonight at 6, we're learning more about Officer Terrence Caraway and his role as a mentor in the community.